Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome back to LearnTube. Today, the topic that we are going to talk about may seem hard to learn. Actually, it may seem impossible to learn. But I am promising you that if you pay close attention and focus, you will understand this very easily. This video is going to be about code, and to be specific, motion blocks. Motion blocks are simply the blocks of code used to move sprites. If you don't know what are sprites, make sure to watch the sprites tutorial I made. You may find the link in the description below. So, what are we waiting for? Let's get started. So, I will be explaining each motion block and its effect on a sprite. We are going to start with the move amount of steps block. This block moves the sprite either to the right or to the left. Now, if we want the apple to move to the right, we will make the number positive. Now, what happens when we use this block? The x-axis of the sprite changes according to the number you wrote in the block. For example, if you put the number 20 in the block, there, the x-axis will increase by 20 once the block is activated. Now, it's already minus. If we make it 20, there. So let's say if it was 0, and then whenever this block activates, the x-axis increases by 20, which also moves the apple to the right. If you want to make the apple move to the left and place, for example, the number minus 20 there, and then activate it is going to move to the left and the x-axis is going to decrease. Now, you may be wondering, what is the x-axis? The x-axis is simply how far the sprite to the right or to the left is. If the x-axis of the apple is 120, let's set it like that, you will notice that the apple is on the right of the screen. Oppositely, if the x-axis of the apple is minus 120, you will notice that the apple moved to the left completely. The next blocks that we have are the turn amount of degrees clockwise, which is this one over here, and the turn amount of degrees anti-clockwise. And how do you know that they are clockwise or anti-clockwise? Simply from these arrows. This one is clockwise, that one is anti-clockwise. These blocks turn the sprite without changing the x-axis, which is how far the sprite is to the right or to the left, or the y-axis, which is how far up or down the sprite is. So if the sprite, for example, is at 150 y-axis, it will be very up, and if it is minus 150 on the other side, it's going to be way down. So now you understood the coordinates of any sprite and how you could use them to identify where is your sprite. Now, these two blocks, which is the turn amount of degrees clockwise and turn amount of degrees anti-clockwise, do not affect the x-axis or the y-axis. They affect only one thing: the direction. Now, what is the direction? It is logically the angle of the shape. Let's simplify it in this. Whenever you click here, it opens for you this circled shape, and this circled shape is 360. You should have, if you like math, then you should know this. Any amount of angle that is like this, a circle equals 360 degrees. Now, this block toggles this direction icon there. This block simply toggles it by adding or minusing the direction. So for example, turn amount of degrees clockwise, if you put, for example, 15 clockwise and then activate it, it became 105. So that's 90 plus 15, which is 105. And you notice that the apple also turned a little bit to the right because this is clockwise. If you keep doing this, you keep noticing the apple turns. It literally made a 360 flip. There, 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 and there. On the other way, if you want to use this one and write the number 15 in it, there, the apple moves in the opposite direction. There. Now, you don't need to use both. Actually, one works just as fine. This one is anti-clockwise. If you put a negative number in this one, minus 15, you will notice that it's turning as if it was clockwise. Because negating a number that is anti-clockwise makes it clockwise, and if you negate a number that is clockwise, it becomes anti-clockwise. So a negative number over here is going to act as if this block was an anti-clockwise block. There, it's moving anti-clockwise, and there, it is moving clockwise. So this is exactly how you use the turn amount of degrees block. The next block we have is go to any position. Now let's set this to normal, 90, and then the x and the y axis 0 and 0 to make sure that the apple is directly in the middle. There. Now go to random position simply makes the x-axis and the y-axis completely random, and whenever it's activated, boop. It automatically just decides any random number and transforms it into the x-axis and the y-axis. There, go to random position again. The y-axis changed, the x-axis didn't. It's completely random. There, this time both of them changed. So go to random position simply makes the sprite go to a random position according to the x and the y axis. Alright, and there's this drop down list. There's either two options, go to random position or go to the mouse pointer. If we set it to go to the mouse pointer, it simply will come to the mouse pointer. So if we move this block and place it over here, the apple is going to come down and it tries to follow the mouse pointer. Now, unfortunately, I'll not be able to activate it and then, so I'll not be able to show you like that. But, so that's exactly how you use the go to mouse pointer and go to random position. The next block we have is also a go to, but this one may be easier to understand. This one simply says go to a number of x-axis and a number of y-axis. So this one is very easy if you know what are the coordinates you want the apple to be in. So for example, if you want the apple to be here, then you look at the x-axis and the y-axis. The apple now is at the coordinates x-axis minus 188 and y-axis 124. If you want, you can simply do that by making the x-axis minus 188 and the y-axis minus 100 and no, not minus, just 124. Now, if you come and take this apple anywhere else, the x-axis and the y-axis changed, you click this, it comes back to exactly where it was because you set it to go there. Now, if you want to make it go to the middle, you know that the middle is 0 and 0. There. And whenever you click there, it's completely in the middle. So that is how to use the go to x specific number, y specific number block. The next block we have in the list is glide 1 second to somewhere. Now, this block is really helpful whenever you're trying to make a chase game like the one that I made. You may find the link in the description below. It's how to make a virus escape game. But what I did is that I simply used this block to glide 1 second to random position or to mouse pointer. If you have any other sprites, the sprites are going to appear in the drop down list. So what this block simply does is it says, for example, let's add another sprite. I'm going to make it surprise. There, let's just get another sprite. All right, we have this dress. We're going to keep it over there. And then we're having the apple over here. If we're going to use the glide 1 second to dress and then activate it, the apple is going to simply just take exactly 1 second gliding towards the dress. The higher the number, the slower the apple is going to go. So for example, 5. It is going to take 5 seconds. Now let's use this code again to make the apple back at the center. And then whenever we use this, it's going to take 5 seconds, but eventually it will glide to the dress. Now you can do this to a random position. There. So it's gliding for 5 seconds to that position over there. And the smaller the number, the faster the apple is going to move. So we know that. Now the next one we have is similar to the glide to random position or to a sprite, but here you again can select the coordinates that you want. So for example, if you want the apple to come over here, but there you don't want to spawn a sprite and then make it glide to the sprite and like that. So instead you can use this block, and then the x-axis is minus 140. So minus 140. And the y-axis is 61. There. Now, if you move the apple anywhere you would like, and then activate this block, it is going to glide for 1 second to that position, which is minus 140 and 61. The next block that we have is point in direction, and then a specific number. You remember this block, these two blocks that are turn specific amount of degrees? Well, this one is not turning, but it is setting it. So for example, the apple is at direction 90 now. If I want to flip the apple upside down, you can see this. It is minus 90. There. The apple is completely upside down because it's minus 90. But then in the middle of while I'm doing the game or creating something, I want my apple to fix again. There. Click that. The direction became 90. And then point in direction, for example, 180. And then do this. Gonna be side. Minus 180. Oh, the minus sign vanished. The minus 180, it's still going to be the same. Oh, I get why. Because this is 180, and 180 and minus 180 is the same exact thing. So, logically, if you want this apple to be like that, like on the other side, you can just keep flipping it like this for that. 0 is the angle you're looking for. So 0 is going to make it twist to the other side. There we go. And boom. And now it's pointing to the left. 180 pointing to the right. 90 is the normal shape of it. And minus 90 is upside down. So now that we know how to use this, the next thing that we have is point towards. And then there's a drop-down list. Mouse pointer or dress. Now this is really helpful when you're trying to make a game and you want to make it a little bit more realistic. So if we're going to go to the sprite library and spawn place a sprite that is helpful for this, the cat, for example. The cat works perfect. And then point towards, mouse pointer, or point towards dress. Now, if you're if you're making, for example, a platformer game, and then whenever you walk to the right, the cat is pointing to the right, but then whenever you walk to the left, you notice that the cat is still pointing to the right. The game does not look that cool because the cat would be walking like backwards without looking. So the visualized, like the main reason for this thing is for like, visualized. So point towards dress. Now it's pointing towards dress. Okay. Now it's pointing to the angle of the dress. So point towards dress. Now it's pointing towards the dress, which is it always points to the center of the sprite. Now point towards apple. It is going to go down and point towards the apple. So this is so good whenever you're trying to make like a visualized way of it. And so yeah, that's how you use this block. Point towards and then select. Now if we point towards dress again, there, activate it. It's upside down because we have it set to free rotation. And now what is free rotation? We're going to talk about that now. But for now, we're going to leave this block because we need to set rotation style. And that's a block we're going to talk about just in a second. Back to the apple. Change x by and then a number. Now, you remember how this block, the move number of steps block, changes the x-axis positively or negatively according to the number that you have over here? Well, this block does exactly the same thing. We have here the x-axis is 118. You activate this block, it became 138, 148, 158, 168, 178. It is moving exactly as if the move block amount of blocks was there. Now, if we are going to make it minus 10 and then do it, same exact thing, it moves to the left or to the right. So this block is exactly the same thing as the other block, which is the move amount of steps block. Now, set x to a number, on the other hand, is a little bit different because, over here, for example, if you want to get this to 8, you have to activate this block 4 times to get to 8. This block just sets it straight. So 100, for example, instead of setting this to 10 and then clicking it 10 times, this, that, you can set x to 100 and it just goes back to 100. It does whatever it needs for the x-axis to be 100. So that is how you use the set x. Same exact thing for the set y and change y. Now change y simply changes up or down. So if you want it to go up, it's 10 already. There, now it's going up 10 by 10 by 10 by 10. Now if you want it to go down, just make it a negative number, minus 10, minus 10, minus 10, minus 10, and so on. And setting y, and you know how it works. It's exactly like the set x. For example, 100, for example, maybe. Like that. And there. Now it's set to 100 and 100. Now the next block is used if you want to keep your sprite in the borders of the stage. Now, if you see this dress, now I moved it, look where it can become. So for example, minus 250 as the x. You see, the dress literally went inside the borders and more than half of it was vanished. Now this block, it simply does. So over here, let's keep the apple in here. There. Now it's cut. This block makes the apple bounce to make sure that the apple does not touch the edge. And if it does, it bounces. If you notice over here, there is no space, but at the same time, the apple cannot do this without bouncing. Now, over here, if we come back to this, and then if on edge bounce, it comes back to its original format. Now, this block is helpful if you want to keep your sprite in the stage. I said that many times now, but whatever. The next block we have, which is a very important one, set rotation style. Now, let's get back to Apple. Let's remove all of these sprites, the weird ones, and let's get back to the Apple. Let's set its direction to 90 for everything to be natural, and then 0 and 0. There we go. Set rotation style simply, like, you have three different options. And if you click here, all three of them are going to appear. All around is simply this. You have a complete circle, and it can rotate a 360 flip, and that's allowed, and it's okay. The second option in the direction list is called left-right. Now, left-right is simply the option where it sets like the direction of rotation to only two ways, like left and right, or right and left, right and left to right. So you notice how it does not flip like a 360 flip like it was in the all around, and all it does is either this or this. So that's pretty much the left right. The last option that's there is called do not rotate, and do not rotate simply sets the apple to its original format, which is like in the costumes page. So whenever you click costume, this is the original format of the apple. So the do not rotate sets it to its original format, and it blocks any sort of rotation. So you do that whenever you don't want your sprite to ever rotate no matter what. And that is pretty much everything about motion. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks pretty much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe and like so you do not miss any other videos. Thanks very much for watching again, and I'll see you.